Now you can journey to Gondor and Rohan in Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth, the Spreading War expansion. Welcome to Tantrum House Studio D. I'm Melissa Delp.
And I'm Kevin Delp. Spreading War is the second big box expansion for Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth, a co-op adventure campaign game for 1 to 5 players.
It's published by Fantasy Flight Games, and they sent us this copy to review. Now,
we're not going to cover how to play the base game. We have a separate video for that. It's linked right up there. We really enjoy the game.
This video focuses on the new things the expansion brings. There are a lot of new map tiles, several new types of terrain, a few titles, a lot of item cards, including Tier 4 cards for weapons and armor. There's also a new type of item, mounts. Each horse or creature grants different benefits and abilities.
There are 6 new heroes: Dwalin the Dwarf, Boromir from Gondor, Freyhild of Rohan, Calaminth Took, a hobbit, Rhaenyra an elf, and Beorn, who has 2 forms, a man and a bear.
There are also 6 new roles. I played the Shield Maiden and the Trickster. The Shield Maiden helps a lot when you or nearby heroes attack. I really liked As One, which lets a nearby hero convert all leaves to successes. And then Overrun, which lets you move after an enemy in your space is defeated, and then you can perform an attack with an extra success. The Trickster has ways to increase your successes, add range to a weapon, and give other players extra actions.
I played as the Lore Keeper and Soldier. The Lore Keeper role has a lot of variety, gaining inspiration, increasing some of your stats, even giving you Dwarf, Elf, and Hobbit traits. But the most unique aspect is that some of the cards never go in your deck. You actually can set them aside after you buy them, and the game immediately increases your lore when certain game events trigger them. One of the cards lets you double the number of hits on that turn, but you do have to remove the card from that scenario if you use the power. Now, the Soldier gives lots of benefits to players who have tactic cards. The deck has more duplicate cards than most, but 2 of the value 7 cards have successes for a total of 6 in the deck. Now, I took this deck a little bit later after the Lore Keeper, so mainly I used the Soldier deck just to beef up the number of successes in my deck.
Our friend Paul Michael played the Guide. The deck has several ways to scout or gain benefits when you scout. There are also several cards that help others prepare cards, use keywords on your cards, and even perform the same action you did.
Now, the final role is the Provisioner. It provides ways to increase fear and damage limits and flip down fear and damage. Of course, there are new enemy miniatures too. There's Fell Beast, Siege Engines, Warg Riders, Orcs, Soldiers, and a pretty sweet Oliphant.
We've had a lot of experience playing Journeys in Middle-earth. We've played the base scenario several times. And we've played each of the expansions except Haunting of Dale at least once.
We actually played the 14 scenarios of this campaign over the course of a few days when we were snowed in with some friends during the great snow apocalypse of South Carolina had a few weeks ago.
Yeah, at least that's what you call it when you get 5 inches of snow and some ice here in the South.
We played with 4 players on regular difficulty and included some of the content from the Shadow Paths expansion. Now, I played as Dwalin. His special power can be used after you interact with something. You can spend an inspiration to prepare a card from your discard pile. And in some situations, that can be really powerful. Now, that was a really hard decision personally for me because I like using inspiration for other things in the game. I really like the deck of cards that comes with Dwalin. He has a sprint on a card, and you know, dwarves are natural sprinters. And one of my favorites to prepare was the Ancestral Grudge that not only has strike 3, but also adds 2 hits and lethal if it's against an orc or a goblin. I really like that. It was nice to use.
Yeah, I heard him all the time. Ancestral Grudge. Now, I played as the elf Rhaenyra and took the suggested starting items, the short bow and padded armor, and the suggested role Trickster. Her special power is the ability to take an action to scout, which can be really helpful before you test or attack. You even get a benefit if you prepare certain types of cards. Now, I love using ranged weapons, so she was a good fit for my... Yeah, shoot and run away. Yeah. So she was a great fit for my playstyle. Her early weapons couldn't do a ton of damage, but the upgraded bows got really powerful. And the level 4 bow is insane. With 3 successes, it gives you 12 hits and lethal. But it does come with a cost of having to discard a prepared card. All the level 4 items are great.
I agree.
They provide a lot of damage, modifiers, and protection.
We actually gained a lot of lore throughout the campaign and leveled up our items fairly quickly, so it was nice to have something beyond level 3 to advance to. One thing to be aware of, though, is that each player can only have one level 4 item. So you have to choose whether it's going to be your weapon or your armor.
Because of our familiarity with the game in general, we were often able to discern which side quests were worth pursuing or not. You know, we were thinking, oh, that one kind of sounds like lore. That one's probably just inspiration. Now that one, that could be a title or a trinket.
Although we were surprised a few times. I'm not sure if it was because of our choices during the branching paths or if it was just random. I couldn't really tell. But we did find some of the titles and trinkets near the end of the campaign.
Yeah, it was like really not many at the beginning. Our friend Paul Michael played with Beorn, who could transform between his man and bear forms. As a bear, he had an additional cost for interacting, but he was really strong when attacking with might. He did need to prepare a specific card to transform, though, so he didn't always have that option.
It seemed like a really interesting character to play, and I'd like to try that character sometime.
So let's talk a little bit about the campaign. The theme centers around the kingdoms of Gondor and Rohan and a growing threat.
I thought the theme really did come through. It had a good storyline, and I'd like to play it again because of those branching paths and see what different decisions would make us choose different things.
Yeah, there was one aspect of the campaign, though, that did get a bit old. Each time you travel between Gondor and Rohan, you play the same battle map with slight variations, usually getting more difficult the further in.
Now, the first time or two was fine, but by the third and fourth time, I just wish it would have just given us a different scenario instead of that same Borderlands. I felt like it was just something I had to get through to get to a more interesting scenario.
Yeah, I'm sure the feeling was enhanced by the fact that we played the campaign in such a short time frame.
I agree. I enjoyed the new enemies, the fell beasts, and the siege engines. I wish the Oliphant was used more, though.
I wonder if enabling the other scenario diluted the enemies some. I mean, we definitely saw quite a few spiders during this campaign.
Lots of enemies, and a lot of the map tiles were used from the Shadow Paths expansion as well. Now, there were some good things and bad things about the app. I think this is a new feature. We were able to click on the enemies during the shadow phase to apply reactions like hits and stun with Rhaenyra's Child of Luin or Children of Luin card.
Yeah, it also told us when we were working on the final objective of the scenario.
Yeah.
I don't think that happened in the base campaign.
Not that I remember.
So having that info really helped us plan out if we could take some more time to investigate those search tokens or if we really needed to push toward the end.
Now, on the negative side, we did run into a few bugs. Now, they weren't game-breaking, but they were a little annoying. At least once, the game said to put out a siege engine, but then showed a fell beast on the enemy bar. I found that a little odd. And in one scenario, the game asked about the status of each hero, but then kept applying the effects to Beorn. After his name kept popping up, we decided it was a mistake.
Yeah, hopefully the bugs will get fixed soon.
So, final thoughts from me are, I always enjoy campaigns like this, especially because of the theme. The Lord of the Rings theme just like draws me in, and the game immerses me in the lore just really well. But if I had to pick between two expansions, I would actually recommend the Shattered Paths expansion over this one, Spreading the War. And then you can buy the Spreading the War one second.
So I think I agree with that. There's more variety in the missions for Shadowed Paths, but I really do like some of the components in Spreading War. One of the great things about each expansion is it adds more variety to all the campaigns because you can enable everything. The map tiles, enemies, items, titles, trinkets, and heroes. Our friend Ben actually played with Gandalf from the Shadowed Paths expansion.
So if you enjoy The Lord of the Rings, Journeys in Middle-earth, I definitely recommend this expansion. The new heroes, enemies, the horses, the different mounts you can add, especially the level 4 weapons and armor. Big thumbs up.
So if you've played any of the scenarios, which are your favorites? And do you have a go-to character or role? Let us know in the comments. I'm definitely Team Elf, ranged weapons for the win.